Sociopathy and psychopathy are not exactly the same, although they're very similar. Their mood swings can be unpredictable, and their behaviors are often impulsive. Hi, this is Jim Brillon. Welcome to this YouTube channel where we talk about all things mental health. I've gotten some interest in the subject of what is the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. So I'm going to be talking about what those two terms mean. Generally, those terms, psychopath and sociopath, they're not clinical diagnoses, but they are clinical terms for people that have antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD. What that is, it's in the same category of mental illness as narcissism and histrionic personality disorders. Sociopathy and psychopathy are not exactly the same, although they're very similar. What they have in common is a shared set of symptoms, which are basically people that have a disregard for rules, they lack guilt, they violate other people's rights, they have a hard time forming relationships, if they can form relationships at all. And they really have an inability to really care for other people. They have emotional issues, and these symptoms start showing up sometimes in childhood, but generally by the teenage years. The most prominent difference between a sociopath and a psychopath is the way that they react in social situations and the way they behave towards other people. The prevalence of antisocial personality disorder is somewhere between 1% and 4% of the population, and they tend to be 3 to 5 times more male than female. So some traits of a sociopath is that they break the law, they have no regard for the law, they're often physically aggressive, their lives are often chaotic and dramatic. They're exploitative of other people and don't take responsibility for their actions. So they feel very little guilt or remorse for the things that they do to hurt people. They tend to be really manipulative of people, especially for personal gain. They can be very angry and hostile, especially certain types of a sociopath. Their mood swings can be unpredictable, and their behaviors are often impulsive. Now, that's a general description of symptoms that happen with a sociopath, but then we also have to talk about low functioning and higher functioning sociopaths, because there is a difference. Some of these people on the lower functioning end really struggle just to get by in life. They may not be able to keep relationships or keep jobs. They get caught because they're sloppy and they end up going to jail or going to prison. The higher functioning sociopaths are a very different breed altogether, and these are people that tend to be very secretive. They actually have the ability to hold a job, to form relationships, and they're much harder to point out in general society. A higher functioning sociopath is somebody who is not as impulsive and is a little more thoughtful about the things that they do. And they can actually be really successful. They can become successful businessmen, even CEOs, even politicians. They can even achieve some of the highest offices in politics. They still really struggle with being able to tell the truth, because the truth is just whatever suits them at the time. And they really struggle to maintain authentic relationships. The relationships are all transactional. Generally, a sociopath is somebody who, as a child, was likely diagnosed with conduct disorder. And these are kids that are physically aggressive towards other people. They might abuse animals, and they might be cruel. They lie, they steal, consistently break the rules, and they might destroy property. So that is a description of conduct disorder, and that is a precursor to antisocial personality disorder. The traits of a psychopath, on the other hand, is that they have very few emotions, if they feel emotions at all. They can be very steely and cold, as opposed to highly impulsive. And they often have sadism, so they take pleasure in hurting people. They're often pathological liars and can have a charming personality. They can really turn on the charm and convince you that they're somebody that they're not. They can actually appear to be kind and sweet at times. And they really lack fear. They take a lot of risks in their behaviors. And as far as relationships, they're very unreliable in relationships. And they really don't love people. Now, some forms of them can have ties with a very close circle of people in their immediate family or friends, but they really don't have rich emotional lives. Again, there's no remorse for the things that they do. They often lack judgment, and they can lack life goals. And what will happen often is they actually underreact to danger, whereas a sociopath, if they're threatened, or especially if they're threatened that their cover is going to be blown, they can react violently. But a psychopath is much more calm and cool under pressure in stressful situations. They avoid developing relationships with people unless it's for personal gain. And they really have no moral compass or conscience. And like I say, they don't feel bad for hurting people. Some of the causes for these things, there's actually, the way we understand it, there's a difference between a sociopath and a psychopath as far as how they're formed. Psychopath is somebody who genetically has some brain differences. A sociopath is generally formed through probably some temperament and personality issues, but to a great extent, the way that they're raised, parented, and if they suffer abuse and neglect, this can actually help to form a sociopath. They're often neglected children that don't form attachment with their caregivers. So with the psychopath, genetics plays a much larger role, and it's believed that there's a difference in the way that the amygdala works in a psychopath's brain. This is the part of the brain that regulates emotions, especially affecting the ability to react to fear and danger. Unfortunately, there's a pretty poor prognosis for treatment for somebody with ASPD. First of all, they don't generally recognize that they need to change or that they have a problem, and they don't seek treatment very often. Now, if you can get intervention earlier in a person's life, that can actually make a difference. Medications can be used to treat things like hyperactivity and impulsivity. Antipsychotics and mood stabilizers are used sometimes, but there's really no medication to control psychopathy or sociopathy. And a psychopath is somebody who also has a constellation of personality traits that are referred to as the dark triad. And what that means is they have narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissism is something we talk a lot about as far as grandiosity and self-serving and attention-seeking. Machiavellianism is kind of a cold, calculating trait that allows people to manipulate and control people in very devious ways. So that dark triad is really a very dangerous cluster of personality traits. And both of these personality disorders are, or forms of a personality disorder, are very dangerous. They're very, very dangerous. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who's a sociopath or a psychopath, the best thing to do is to get out. And that's not easy to do often. So to wrap it up, again, these are two forms of antisocial personality disorder that have slightly different causes and different appearances. If the videos are helpful, I really encourage you to like and subscribe, sign up for notifications, put a comment down below and let me know what you'd like to hear about if you have any questions about the videos. And I look forward to talking with you again. Take care.